Hi, welcome to Budget MTG Decks. All magic fun, all cards under $1. I'm David, and this is my bald guy, Ruud.
Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about a fun and effective EDH deck you can build without breaking the bank. Now today's deck is going to feel unfair towards your opponents. You're going to be an evil genius. But before we move on to our commander, we have a very special announcement to make. We have a Patreon page. So why do we have that, David?
Well, have you ever thought to yourself, I like these videos, but I wish they would make more of them. I would even be willing to buy them a magic card for one of their decks as a thank you. Well, now you can. If you go to our Patreon page, you can donate as little as $1 per month to help us make more videos, and in return, you'll get access to exclusive Patreon-only content and our undying love and affection, to a degree. There's also additional rewards you can get there, and even embarrassing tasks that we'll complete when we reach certain goals, like getting in the face with pies or jumping in the canals of Amsterdam. There's much more to see there too, so head on over to our Patreon page and have the dubious honor of being one of our first patrons. Now, without further ado, we present to you our commander, Nicol Bolas.
The Forever Serpent. The Horned One. The God Pharaoh of Amonkhet. The most powerful Elder Dragon itself, Nicol Bolas. Laid to ruin the countless foes and civilizations Nicol Bolas has encountered in its thousands of years of existence. Having become a planeswalker early in life as a result of a game of Elder Dragon Highlander, Nicol Bolas has long been fighting around the world and across other planes. In its youth, Nicol Bolas slayed a Leviathan on an early version of Dominaria. The result of the battle destroyed Madara, created the first time rift, and greatly increased Bolas' power after eating the Leviathan. The Talon Gates still stand as a trophy and reminder of his great victory. It was also on Madara that Bolas realized its love for its signature colors, blue, red, and black, which Bolas eventually became dependent on in order to anchor itself to reality. Bolas stayed as the God Emperor of Madara for hundreds of years, until being slayed by Tetsuro Omizawa, weak legend but powerful fork stabby thing. Still alive in spirit, Bolas took advantage of the time rifts, using others as his pawns to return to his physical form. But Jessica's mending spell changed the nature of planeswalkers and drastically reduced the powers of old planeswalkers, Bolas itself falling into this category. Minus the planeswalker side, Bolas still had tremendous intellect and still retained its extensive powers as an original Elder Dragon. Bolas' weakened state caused it the need to make deals with planeswalkers such as Liliana and Tezzeret. It wasn't until the conflicts on Alara did we see another physical iteration of Bolas in all its power. Bolas has had run-ins with pretty much any other major planeswalker you can think of, all of which ended with Bolas winning and gaining more power, or slightly not winning and losing some power. Perhaps the only thing more powerful than Nicol Bolas itself is its legend. Bolas is held up to godlike status in places like Amonkhet, where there is a religion built around Bolas and its foretold return to the plane, with the inhabitants believing that by proving their worth, they may be granted an afterlife. There's no telling what Bolas will do next, but it's likely to be interesting, as it's doubtful Nicol Bolas will be leaving the multiverse anytime soon.
So Nicol Bolas costs 2 blue, 2 black, and 2 red mana for a whopping 8 mana. We get a 7/7 legendary Elder Dragon. The big baddie himself, Nicol Bolas, has flying. It's a dragon, obviously. Additionally, at the beginning of our upkeep, we are going to have to pay a blue, a black, and a red to keep him around. Otherwise, we have to sacrifice him. And also, whenever this guy deals combat damage, or deals damage, sorry, not combat damage, just damage to an opponent, that player is going to have to discard their hand. That is insanity. This card is one of the OG, one of the old-fashioned big commanders, and is going to be doing so much work. However, we did not build our deck around this. We're actually going to not be casting Nicol Bolas a lot of the time. Number one, because it's very expensive, and number two, because the deck is not built around the discard ability. We can use him, however, to finish off our opponents, and of course, getting hit just once and making an opponent discard their entire hand is brutal. You may also think that the downside of having to pay 3 mana every turn or every upkeep is really bad. However, there are some instances when it gets enchanted with a pacifism effect or something, and it's really nice to be able to sacrifice it to itself. So it's actually all good stuff. But Ruud, what are we going to need to make this deck tick?
We have 11 cards that manipulate the battlefield. Then we have 24 removal cards, We have 13 card advantage cards and then 13 utility cards, and of course we have lands, 38 of them.
Exactly. And what would be the ideal turn progression?
We're not going to be very fast. On turn 1 we're going to do nothing. Turn 2 we will have some ramp. Turn 3 maybe a counterspell. Turn 4 some mind control against the biggest thing or the biggest threat on the battlefield. And then turn 5 removal, and turn 6 onward we're going to have some card advantage and some additional removal, of course.
Exactly. So without further ado, let's start with the manipulate cards. We divide the manipulate cards into mind control cards. So these are the cards that are going to be taking over a creature of our opponent. Then we've got clone cards, which are going to become a copy of the best thing on the battlefield. And then we've got steal spells, where we're going to be stealing our opponent's spells. It's all very manipulative stuff. Very cool. We're going to start with the first mind control spell, and that is control magic for 2 and 2 blue. So for 4 mana, we got an enchantment, an aura. We're going to be able to enchant a creature with this, and then we are going to control that creature. This is, of course, super cool because we can enchant anything that doesn't have hexproof or shroud, and then it belongs to us. We're going to be able to control it. What is important to remember is when we do this on our turn, we cannot attack with it right away, because as the creature has changed controllers in this turn, it once again has summoning sickness. So unless you have some other way of giving it haste, you will not be able to attack with that same creature on the same turn. Ruud, why are mind control effects, or control magic in this sense, why are they so powerful?
Well, of course you get to remove one of your opponent's creatures and you get to control it, of course. So that's 2 cards in one, actually. And of course you remove it from their side, so that it doesn't go to the graveyard, so it's really hard to save their creature or to get it back from you. So that makes it really strong, of course.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, let's not forget that people are playing their commanders, and we can take their commander, and when we enchant their commander with this, we have control of it, and they actually can't let it go to their command zone in response, unless they have some way of sacrificing it, which of course is super annoying when we, the Nicol Bolas player, are taking over the minds of our opponent's commanders and playing with them instead, and probably playing better than they could. Right?
Yes, we especially for this deck, we do allow control magic because it feels unfair in the commander setting, especially in our own setting, because all cards are under $1 in price with the exception of the commander. So really strong. It's a really simple effect, but really strong.
Yeah.
A little more complicated is the next card. That's Puppeteer Click. For 5 mana, of which 2 black, you get a 3/2 flying wizard creature. A fairy wizard it is. And when it enters the battlefield, you get to gain control of a creature from your opponent's graveyard until end of turn. It gains haste, of course. And you get to sacrifice or exile it at the end of the turn. This creature also has persist, so that means when it dies, it will enter again with a -1/-1 counter, and it will have this effect again, of course. What you should really try to do with this card, which is really strong, is trying to sacrifice it and gain some graveyard recursion all over again.
Yeah, that's of course, not only is it super cool that you get to smack your opponent in the face with the best thing in the graveyard when they didn't expect it, because it comes in on turn, you can attack with it right away because it got haste. Additionally, the fact that that best thing that's in their graveyard is now going to be exiled at the end of the turn, which is of course super annoying. However, if you have sack effects, if you have recursion effects, what you can do, of course, is sack Puppeteer Click to make sure that you can recur it and play it multiple times. You can also sack the creature before the end of the turn, and then it will go into your opponent's graveyard, and in that case you can actually keep on smacking them with the same creature as long as you have recursion and sack effects on the battlefield, which is of course insult to injury. Next card is Slave of Bolas for 3, a hybrid blue or red and a black. So for 5 mana, how could we not include Slave of Bolas? Even if it would be a terrible card, we would still have to include it because it is just so flavorful. It's a sorcery. We're going to be gaining control of target creature. We're going to untap that creature. It's going to gain haste until the end of turn, and we're going to sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So basically, the best thing on the battlefield, our opponent's really got something good. We're going to take it, hit them in the face with it, and then say, all right, you're going to get it back, but now it's dead. And yeah, that is just super, that's insult to injury both together, isn't it?
Really nice. It's a little different than control magic, of course. You only get to keep it until end of turn, but you can attack with it right away.
Yeah.
So some downside and some upsides. Next card, Sepulchral Primordial. For 7 mana, it's a 5/4 avatar with Intimidate, so it can only be blocked by black creatures and artifact creatures. When it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, you may put one of their creatures in their graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It does not go away, so it will just stay there. So if you have a 4-player game, you will gain 3 creatures.
Yeah.
With this one 4, of course.
Super strong. Intimidate, not to be underestimated, being able to deal 5 damage to everything except for artifact creatures and black creatures, so that's of course super nasty. Additionally, with any kind of flicker effect or recursion, this gets really out of control. Super strong. Next, we have Blatant Thievery for 4 and 3 blue. So for 7 mana, we get a sorcery. We're going to, for each opponent, take control of target permanent that player controls. So if you saw with these kind of cards, we're playing single cards and we're getting multiple things in return. We're taking all their stuff, and we also get to pick what that is. So that is really nasty for our opponents.
Really, really strong card, of course.
The best stuff.
So that were our mind control cards. Let's go on to the clone cards. The first one is Vizier of Many Faces. For 4 mana, it enters the battlefield. You may have it enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, so it doesn't have to be your creature. Except when it was embalmed, it will also be white and a zombie in addition to its other types. You can also embalm this creature, so you can cast it again from your graveyard for 5 mana.
Yeah, and then when it dies after that, then it's exiled.
Yes,
so that's just, well, when you embalm it, you actually exile it right away, and you put a token that's a copy, but it comes down to the same thing. That's of course very nice because you got the best thing. Then we have a very similar card, Evil Twin, for 2 a blue and a black. So for 4 mana, we've got a Shapeshifter. When this guy enters the battlefield, it's going to become a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it's also going to be able to tap and pay a blue and a black to destroy target creature with the same name as this creature. Super nice because as these cards, they become a copy of any creature. It does not say the word target. And that is really important, which means creatures with Hexproof for Shroud, we could still become copies of those creatures, which is super sweet. And additionally, of course, being able to destroy a creature with the same name, Evil Twin, is a super nice target for our opponent's commanders, because of course they let it go around 1 turn. It doesn't have haste, so it does have to wait, and they're going to be able to kill their commander repeatedly, which is super nasty. Additionally, you can make it a copy of some kind of token, which is maybe somebody's been spamming. You can kill one of those tokens every single turn, which is also pretty nasty.
Really, really good and evil card, of course.
Perfect.
The next one is Identity Thief. For 4 mana, it's a 0/3 Shapeshifter. But when it attacks, you may exile another target non-token creature. So anything except for tokens, of course. And this creature becomes a copy of that creature. And at end of turn, the creature returns to the battlefield under its owner's control.
Yeah, so you can use this card in many different ways. You can either use it to remove a blocker, a potential blocker, say, okay, that thing's exiled, now I can attack with impunity with my stuff. You can also use it, and that's the way that I really like to use it, is to make a copy of something with a really cool enter the battlefield ability, like Sepulchral Primordial. Now, attacking with this thing has now become Sepulchral Primordial. It has Intimidate. It comes in with that 5 damage, and then at the end of the turn, the original Sepulchral Primordial comes in, bam, we're taking again stuff from our opponent's graveyards. That gets really, really obnoxious, and I love it. I love doing it. Then we move on to the steal spells. So we're going to be taking, knocked creatures. We'll be taking other kinds of spells from our opponent. The first one, Praetor's Grasp, for 1 and 2 black. So for 3 mana, we got a sorcery, and we get to search our opponent's library for a card. Then we're going to exile that card face down, so they don't get to see what we exiled. And then we're going to be able to play that card whenever we want, as long as it remains exiled. So we do need to pay the right mana. So when you're looking for it, you do need to make sure, but this deck does have enough ways to generate any mana that we want. So we should be able to play the best thing, not on the table, not in their hand, but in their deck entirely, which is of course absurd for a measly 3 mana. And it really feels like being a Nicol Bolas, the evil genius, saying, okay, I know exactly what the best thing is, and you don't get it, but I'm gonna get it. Very cool.
Really nice. The next one is kind of the same, but this one is on a stick. A little better, I think. Gonti, Lord of Luxury. For 4 mana, it's a 2/3 Death Toucher. And it also lets you look at the top 4 cards of your opponent's library and exile 1 face down. And you may cast that card as long as it remains exiled. But this time around, you can use any type of mana to cast it.
Yeah. So of course, what's really good about this one is that it's a 2/3, so it's a body, and it's got death touch, which means it's also a great blocker. It doesn't allow you to look through the entire library, which
That's
is
true.
That's kind of unfortunate, but still
Definitely.
top 4 is pretty sweet. You can still just play a land or something. You can use it as just to be able to color fix yourself, even in worst case scenario. And of course, as it's on a creature with recursion, that's super sweet. Maybe you can use it multiple times.
True.
Next card, Diluvian Primordial for 5 and 2 blue. So for 7 mana, we get a 5/5 flyer. That's already great. Nice little attacking unit, a big fatty. Additionally, when this guy enters the battlefield, for each opponent, we're going to be able to cast an instant or sorcery from their graveyard for free. That is going to be so nasty. People are going to be playing, especially later in the game. They're going to have such sweet instant sorceries. You're going to be able to get so much value playing their best stuff. And of course, that card, after we've played it, it gets exiled. It means they won't even be able to get it back afterwards. So that's, again, insult to injury. Man, these cards are really, really nasty.
That's really nice. That were all the manipulate cards, so let's go on to the control cards. So we divided our control spells into counter spells, targeted removal, sacrifice effects, and board wipes. So the first card is counter spell for 2 blue mana. Really simple, counter target spell.
Yeah, what more do you want to say about that? Sometimes you just don't want something to happen.
True.
Next we have Silumgar Sorcerer for 1 and 2 blue. So for 3 mana we get a 2/1 human wizard with flash, also with flying and exploit. And as well, whenever this guy exploits a creature, we're going to be able to counter target creature spell. Okay, so this means that we're going to be playing it essentially like a 3 mana counter spell that can only hit creatures, because when it comes in, we can exploit it to itself. If we've got something worse or something that we took over from our opponents, for example, then of course you can always just use that for the exploit function. But in principle, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if this creature dies. Why? Because we got ways of getting creatures back from the graveyard back into our hand. And in essence, then it becomes a repeatable counter spell.
Really nice, really nice. Then the next one is counter flux for 2 blue mana and a red mana. We get to counter target spell we don't control. And this one can't be countered by spells or abilities. It also has overload, so you can counter anything that's on the stack. Everything that's on the stack, I should say. But you don't use that a lot, I think.
No.
It could be.
Yeah, the idea behind it, of course, you sometimes have it that you counter something and then somebody else counters your counter. This one's Nicol Bolas basically saying, no, I'm countering it and nobody gets to do anything anymore. Done. Another card which fits in flavor so well, Insidious Will for 2 and 2 blue. So for 4 mana, we get an instant, and we can do one of 3 things. We can either counter target spell. Okay, great. Sometimes we want to counter something. That's good. We can also choose to change the target of a spell to a new target. So that's cool. If somebody says, okay, I'm going to use my removal spell on your commander, and you say, well, not only is that not happening, as in I'm countering it, you can say I'm actually redirecting it to your commander. That's, again, insult to injury, making it doubly bad. Now the third option is to copy target instant or sorcery spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. Sometimes you just say, you know what, that's pretty good. I'm not going to stop you from doing it, but I would also like that. That would be quite nice if I could also get that, and then you just take it. Why not?
Really nice. Then the next card is Desertion. For 5 mana, we get to counter target spell, but this time around, if an artifact or creature spell is countered, we gain control of it. Really nice.
I really like it, where Insidious Will can give us basically control of an instant or sorcery.
Yeah.
Desertion gives us the control of the creature or artifacts. We've got all the stuff covered. Next, we move on to the targeted removal. First one, a favorite of mine, Tragic Slip for a single black. It's an instant. Target creature gets -1/-1 till the end of turn, but that might as well not not say that, because the morbid is what's important. It says target creature gets -13/-13 until the end of turn if a creature died this turn. So essentially, we're always going to wait. Something dies, and then we're going to give something -13/-13 for a single black, and that is one hell of a deal.
Really, really nice, especially because it can also deal with indestructible creatures and maybe creatures that can regenerate. It won't work anymore because this just gives it a 0 body.
Yeah.
Or
And then it's dead.
The next one is Terminate. For 2 mana of 1 black and 1 red mana, we get to destroy target creature, and the creature can't be regenerated. Instant speed, of course.
Yeah. What's really cool about these instant speed removal spells is that we can use it to hold them in our hand, and since they're so cheap, we're always going to be able to keep the mana open for it. And then when our opponents are attacking each other with big fatties, we'll just let them do that, because after all, we're the evil genius and we're manipulating people to kill each other. And then once one of those big fatties comes our way, instant speed, terminate. Let that be a lesson to everybody else. Any other creature that's coming our way is dead. Next we go to Rakdos Charm for a black and a red. So for 2 mana, we get an instant. We get to choose one of 3 options again. First one is exile all cards from target player's graveyard. There's always somebody who wants to use their graveyard as a resource. And if we don't get to use their stuff, then nobody gets to use it, so we can just exile it. We can also destroy target artifact. Yeah, it's Commander. There's plenty of useful artifacts out there. And finally, each controller deals 1 damage. Each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. You also very often have people playing token strategies, spamming, going, "Oh, I got 120 tokens." Okay, well, great. Now you took 120 damage for just measly 2 mana. It's pretty sweet.
Really sweet. Then we have Grixis Charm. For a blue, a black, and a red mana, we get an instant. We get to choose one of the following effects. We can return a permanent to its owner's hand. Especially something with counters on it, of course, really nice.
Yeah, or enchantment.
Or an enchantment, yeah. And then, or we can give target creature -4/-4 into end of turn, or our creatures will get +2/+0 into end of turn. That might be the least of them, I think. The first 2 are most important.
Yeah, of course, being able to destroy something by giving it -X/-X, that's always good. And this deck, because of the colors that it's in, it doesn't actually have ways to outright destroy enchantments. That's the only thing it can't outright destroy. So something like this, being able to return that pesky enchantment back to the hand is just as good. And then, of course, later on, you can always counter it while it's in the air. Next, we have Crosis Charm for the same price, a blue, a black, and a red. So for 3 mana, we get an instant. We also get to have 3 choices. Once again, return target permanent to its owner's hand. That sounds familiar. Or destroy target non-black creature. It can't be regenerated. Okay, also is going to be able to destroy something. Or we're going to destroy target artifact. Once again, another chance to destroy one of those pesky artifacts.
The next card is a Volcanic Offering for 5 mana, of which 1 red. It's an instant. We get to destroy a non-basic land we don't control. And then one of our opponents may choose a non-basic land we don't control. So you actually get to destroy 2 lands. It won't happen when you have only 1 opponent, because they can pick the same land, of course, but they just can't pick your lands.
Yeah.
So that's really nice. And then the next thing on the card, it also deals 7 damage to target creature you don't control, and then an opponent may choose another target creature you don't control to give 7 damage.
Yeah.
So you destroy 2 creatures and you destroy 2 non-basic lands.
Yeah, exactly. So of course, it's super. It's a card in multiplayer. It's very fun to be very manipulative. To see, I'm going to destroy your land, and then say, okay, now you could pick somebody else's land. They're all angry because you destroyed their land, but they can't target you. So they'll be, I'm going to destroy your land. And then you say, okay, to that person, okay, I'm going to destroy your creature, but now you can destroy somebody else's creature, and then they'll destroy their creature, and you just sit there and laugh maniacally. Then we have the final one of the targeted removal. That is a big baddie, Phyrexian Ingester for 6 and a blue. So for 7 mana, it is a 3/3 beast with imprint, which means that when this guy comes in, we're going to be able to exile target non-token creature. And then this guy's going to get +X/+Y to its power and toughness, where X and Y are the creatures that we exile's power and toughness. So it's also going to become bigger. But the most nasty thing is having it on the battlefield, having exiled their best thing. So of course something with regenerate or indestructible, that thing's gone. And additionally, and of course they can't get it back from the graveyard, super nasty. And then finally, the terrible thing about it is, what if you play one of your clone creatures, you make a clone of this one, you do it again. And what about something that flickers it? It comes in, it's being able to get or it dies, or you sacrifice it, you get it back from the graveyard, you play it again. Being able to get multiple uses out is really, really powerful.
Yeah, most of the time these type of effects tend to have a state that you that they get the creature back when this creature dies or leaves the battlefield, but this time around it just stays exiled.
Totally worth the 7 mana. Yeah.
True. Then we have the sacrifice effects. The first one is Merciless Executioner. For 3 mana we get a 3/1 Orc Warrior, and when it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. So you can sacrifice this, of course, or maybe something else.
Yeah, for just 3 mana, I don't mind losing this guy.
True.
And once again, if you got something worse, and it doesn't matter if it dies, because then you can get it back from the graveyard later and do it again. Super nasty. Dark Intimations is next for 2, a blue, a black, and a red. So for 5 mana, by the way, Intimations means announcement. So basically, this is a dark announcement. It's not a very common word. So each opponent sacrifices a creature or a planeswalker. Then they discard a card. Then you return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand, and then you draw a card. Okay, that is super nasty because this hits all your opponents. So for just 5 mana, that is tons and tons of value. Additionally, if you cast a Bolas Planeswalker spell, then we're going to be able to return this card from our graveyard back to our hand, and that thing's going to come in with an additional loyalty counter on it. Okay, now there is no Bolas Planeswalker in this deck because obviously it's not budget. However, should you want to upgrade this deck, take out the Merciless Executioner, put in a Nicol Bolas Planeswalker card, and then Dark Intimations feels even better. Regardless, if you don't, the card is still really strong.
True. Then we have a cool ultimatum. For 2 blue, 3 black and 2 red, target opponent sacrifices a creature, discards 3 cards and loses 5 life. And you get to return a creature from your graveyard to your hand, draw 3 cards and gain 5 life. So you gain a lot, they lose a lot.
Pretty much, kind of the big version of Dark Intimations, but it only hits one opponent. Then we move on to the board wipes. We start in with Vandal Blast for a single red. It's a sorcery. It states we can destroy target artifact we don't control, but we're not going to be playing it for that. Well, not usually. Usually we're going to be overloading it for 4 and red. So for 5 mana, it's going to be hitting all artifacts we don't control. Think about all the people playing their mana rocks. There are other artifacts that try and fill in the slots that the colors don't fill. We're going to be able to hit all those things. And what about somebody's playing an artifact deck? Then you're really hitting them so hard for just 5 mana. And remember, our mana rocks and our artifact creatures and stuff, they all stay alive.
Really nice. Then we have Mizzium Mortar for 2 mana. It's a sorcery that deals 4 damage to a target creature we don't control. But for 6 mana, we get to overload it. And then it deals 4 damage to each creature we do not control.
Yeah. It's gonna hit those tokens a lot.
Yeah,
pretty sweet. Displacement Wave is next for X and 2 blue. It's a sorcery. We're able to return all non-land permanents with converted mana cost X or less to its owner's hand. So this also hits our stuff. What's really cool is this also hits enchantments, which sometimes we have problems dealing with. Additionally, this is a deck that likes the long game. It likes to get incremental value later on in the game. So being able to hit our opponents, even if just putting 6 mana into this and having all those mana rocks and those low-costed creatures and those tokens being returned to our opponent's hands, that puts us in such a comfortable position for later on in the game. And let's not forget that late game, we could also just pay everything under, let's say everything of 7 mana or less into this thing. And then we're going to be able to attack our opponent with, for example, Nicol Bolas, because Nicol Bolas won't be returned to our hand. And then whoever we hit, they're going to have to discard their entire hand. And that's, of course, all non-land permanents that we just returned there. So that is, again, adding insult to injury.
Really nice. Insult to injury. Then, Rags and Riches. Rags is the first card, of course. For 4 mana, it's a sorcery. And it states that all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. Small board wipe.
Yeah.
And then Aftermath, so when it's in the graveyard, this card, you can play the Riches side of the card. And that states each opponent chooses a creature he or she controls and you gain control of those creatures. So you do not get to choose, but you do gain control of 3 creatures.
Yeah, something cool. It's kind of like Blatant Thievery, but then kind of the slightly worse version. But it's tacked onto on a board wipe basically, which is going to hit all those 2/2s and 1 toughness creatures, which is
so
pretty
the
sweet.
small things are gone and you get the big stuff.
Very, very cool, yeah. Next we have Chain Reaction for 2 and 2 red. It's a sorcery. It's going to be dealing X damage to each creature where X is the number of creatures on the battlefield. So as long as you make sure that there's less than 7 creatures on the battlefield, then for example 6 creatures, then of course Nicol Bolas would still survive that, which is pretty nasty. But even then, it usually kills pretty much everything on the battlefield, and for only 4 mana, which is very economical.
Next card is Ixodron. It's an illusion for 5 mana, of which 2 blue. And when it enters the battlefield, turn all other non-token creatures face down. So only non-token creatures. And those creatures will be 2/2s, of course, without any abilities. And the power and toughness of Ixodron itself is equal to the number of face down creatures on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Sort of a board wipe.
Yeah, I think it's really strong because having a creature that's a 6/6 flyer with vigilance, and somebody else is going to have a creature that draws them cards every turn. Somebody's going to have an indestructible thing. Somebody's going to have a hexproof. You know what? Now they're just 2/2. So all that really difficult stuff to get rid of, this thing all of a sudden makes them pathetically pointless pretty much. And of course it's super nice to play Rags after that, giving all those creatures -2/-2. But regardless, this thing's going to be huge anyway, so you can just beat face, no problem. Next card is Crux of Fate for 3 and 2 black for 5 mana. Basically, we've got a sorcery. We get to choose two things: either destroy all dragon creatures. No, because Nicol Bolas is a dragon. Destroy all non-dragon creatures. Yes, we're going to be destroying all non-dragon creatures. It is a very, very efficient board wipe, and one that Nicol Bolas relishes in playing.
Yeah, so you can attack with Nicol Bolas after that, and they also get to discard their hands, so they lost everything.
Yeah, and you know who else is also a dragon?
Steel Hellkite, the next card. It's a dragon for 6 mana. It's a 5/5 artifact creature, and a dragon, of course. It has flying because it's a dragon. For 2 mana, you get to give it +1/+0 until end of turn. Not that interesting, little fire breathing. But for X, we get to destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X or less, whose controller was dealt damage by Steel Hellkite. So when it attacks and deals damage to an opponent, we get to pay any amount of mana, and all those creatures or all those permanents are exiled.
Yeah, no, just destroyed.
Or destroyed, sorry, yeah, destroyed.
And you can only do it once per turn, but this is just so nasty. Just think about it, just a measly investment of 2 mana, you hit, or 3 mana, you hit all those 2 mana or 3 mana, the mana rocks, for example. And what if you say, you know what, I'm not going to pay any mana? You can just put 0 mana into it, and then you kill all their tokens.
You're really a fan of killing tokens.
Oh, I love killing tokens. I love destroying enchantments. I love destroying artifacts. I love killing creatures, taking it over, the whole shebang. And another creature that does that very nicely is Demon of Dark Schemes for 3 and 3 black. So for 6 mana, we get a 5/5 flying demon. And when this guy enters the battlefield, all other creatures get -2/-2 till the end of turn. So this is a lovely creature to flicker, because you can flicker as many times as you want. It won't die to itself anyway. And additionally, whenever another creature dies, we're going to be able to get 1 energy counter. Now, these energy counters are something we're going to keep for ourselves. And when we have 4 energy counters or more, we're going to be able to pay two generic mana and a black. So for 3 mana and 4 energy counters, we're going to be able to return a creature from any graveyard back to the battlefield under our control. So this thing does so much. It's a big flyer in the air. It's dealing damage. It's wiping the board of tokens and other small creatures. It's recurring creatures from our opponent's graveyard or our graveyard, the best thing for a super economical price. All in all, it does so much more than just wipe the board, and I love it. Those are the control cards, so let's have a look at the card advantage cards.
We divided the card advantage card into single card advantage card, repeatable card advantage, and recursion. The first few are not really card advantage, but it's filtering through your deck. The first one is Impulse. For 2 mana, it's an instant. You get to look at the top 4 cards of your library and put 1 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library.
Yeah. The next card is See Beyond for 1 and a blue. So for 2 mana, it's a sorcery this time, so we can't play at instant speed. We're going to draw 2 cards, then shuffle a card from our hand into our library. So we're going to be able to keep those 2 cards potentially, and the crap card that we had in our hand, one of those ones that we don't like, we're going to get rid of that one. So it's pretty nice to be able to filter a little bit through there.
The next one is Diabolic Tutor. Of course, normally we don't play tutors, but this deck is unfair, so it should be in there. For 4 mana, it's a sorcery. We get to search our whole library for a card and put it into our hands.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Shuffle it, of course.
And these cards are not really advantage. It just allows us to get to the better stuff easier. Now, the real single card advantage card would be Fact or Fiction for 3 and a blue. So for 4 mana, we get an instant, which is pretty nice because we got a lot of counter spells. So it's nice to be able to do this kind of stuff instant speed. If we don't counter something, to be able to cast this, for instance. We're going to reveal the top cards of our library. Then our opponent is going to separate those cards into 2 piles, and then we get to pick the best pile and put that into our hand. So most likely, we're going to be able to get 3 cards out of this, because it just gives us the extra card, and they really pile on the best stuff on the 2-card pile. Then we can always take that. But still, it's going to draw us the best stuff because we get to pick the pile. Very nice.
Yeah, really nice. Just as Mull Drafter is really nice. For 5 mana, it's a 2/2 elemental with flying. When it enters the battlefield, we get to draw 2 cards. It also has Evoke, and that states that you may cast it for its Evoke cost for 3 mana, and then you have to sacrifice it when it enters. But you could react, of course, on the first ability triggering, and then just flicker it, or maybe just do something else with it. When you sack it later on, you can cast it again. You can play it again from your graveyard.
Just let it die. Yeah.
You can just let it die, but it's evoke cost. Really nice.
Super good. Yeah. And otherwise, if you need something to hit people in the face with, it's still 2/2 flyer. That's actually fine. Then we move on to the repeatable cards. First one, Underworld Connections for 1 and 2 blacks. So for 3 mana, we get an aura that we can enchant one of our lands with, which can then tap, and we get to pay 1 life to draw a card. Now remember, we do have to enchant a land with it, so essentially it's like an enchantment that would say pay 1 mana and lose a life to draw a card, which is actually, I think, a great deal.
Yeah, really good deal. Next one is Greed. For 4 mana, it's an enchantment, and it says that you can pay a black mana and pay 2 life to draw a card. So 1 life extra, but
exactly.
You don't have to enchant something.
Yeah, still a great deal
there.
though. Yeah. Next, Bloodgift Demon for 3 and 2 blacks. So for 5 mana, we get a 5/4 flyer. Oh, we got a lot of 5 power flyers in this deck. It's very nice. At the beginning of your upkeep, target player draws a card and loses a life. Okay, once again, I don't mind getting a card extra every turn for that 1 life.
Then we have Future Sight. For 5 mana, of which 3 blue, it's an enchantment. You can play with the top card of your library revealed, and you may play that card. Really strong because you can play multiple cards from the top of your library without losing cards from your hand. So that's draw actually.
It can be insane draw. So when you have this on the battlefield, what you're going to be doing is the beginning of your turn, you're not going to be playing the land that you have, because you may reveal a land after your draw, and then you can just play that one from the top, and then you can play the next spell. And of course, you basically only have to stop if you've got a lot of mana. You only have to stop when you hit another land, because of course you can't play 2 lands per turn. But anything other than that, you can basically just keep on casting, which is super sweet. Then we move on to the recursion spells. So this is going to be the kind of spells that allows us to get stuff out of our graveyard. The first one is Phyrexian Reclamation for a single black. It's an enchantment. Allows us to pay 2 mana and 2 life to return target creature card from our graveyard to our hand. Now, this is, of course, an extremely good deal. Already just with something simple like Muldrifter. Evoke costs 3, then for 2 get it back again. Then we can cast it again. This basically costs 5 mana to be able to do it over and over again. And normally it would also cost 5 mana, so it's actually a super good deal.
The next one is Archaeomancer. For 4 mana, it's a 1/2 human wizard, and when it enters, you get to return an instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand.
Yeah, we've got some really nice removal spells. We've got some good board wipes. Archaeomancer gets those back to us, and especially something that would, for example, return cards back to everybody's hand. This one you can keep on doing it over and over again, because it would repeat it. It would return itself, then you play it again, get it back in the graveyard. Then we have Palace Siege for 3 and 2 blacks. For 5 mana, we get 2 choices. We either going to have it when it enters the battlefield. At the beginning of our upkeep, return target card from our graveyard back, target creature card from our graveyard back to our hand. Okay, that's pretty cool. And the alternative is at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Okay, in this deck, we're going to be using it as recursion. But yeah, we can see also a moment where you just think, okay, I'm just going to drain them for a little bit of life. I'm going to gain a little bit of life.
Yeah. Then we have Charmbreaker Devils for 6 mana. It's a 4/4 devil. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to return an instant or sorcery card at random, which is important, from your graveyard back to your hand. And it also says that whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, this creature gets +4/+0 at the end of turn. Most important, of course, is gaining that instant or sorcery back, because you have a lot of great instant sorceries in the deck.
I cannot think of a single instant or sorcery that I would not be happy getting back every single turn. So it's always value. Those are the card advantage cards. Let's have a look at the utility cards.
We divide the utility cards into synergy cards and ramp cards. The first one is Nightscape Familiar. For 2 mana, it's a zombie, and it states that blue and red spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Really nice. Most spells are in our deck. Then for 2 mana, we get to regenerate Nightscape Familiar.
Yeah, it's kind of like a ramp spell as well, in a way. And it also, you can use it as a blocker. Fits very well with the colors of this deck. Next, Durably Murklurker for, it's just fun to say, Murklurker. For 2 and a blue, for 3 mana, we get a 1/3 leech. We don't see a lot of leeches. This one's great. And this guy also gets +1/+1, just period. If you control swamp, we have a good chance. We've got quite a few swamps, but that doesn't really matter. Even if it's just a 1/3, it's fine, because for 1 and a black, so for 2 mana, we can give any creature lifelink until the end of turn, instant speed. Naturally, swinging with our opponent, being with our commander being a 7/7, and then lifelinker at our opponents is of course super nasty, especially if we connect and they have to discard their hand and we gain 7 life. That's of course terrible. We've got a lot of 5/5 flyers or 5 power creatures. That's going to be gaining us tons and tons of life as well. And finally, what you could also do is use it to keep one of your friends that you're manipulating to kill one of your real opponents, let's say, keep them alive by giving lifelink to their creatures and keeping them in the game just long enough so you can use them to kill another opponent, and then of course you can kill them. So that's a nice little political advantage.
I knew you were going to say that. He really likes to do that.
I like that.
The next one is Notion Thief for 4 mana. It's a 3/1 human rogue. It has flash. And it also states that if an opponent would draw a card, with the exception of the first one, they do not draw that card, but you get to draw a card. Yeah. Especially with the flash, this is really nice because when they play something that lets them draw, say, 5 cards or something, you just play this and you get to draw those 5 cards.
Yeah, they don't get anything. Sorry, it's not funny. It's not funny. All right. Next, we go on to Peregrine Drake for 4 and a blue. So for 5 mana, we get a 2/3 flyer, and when this guy enters the battlefield, untap up to 5 lands. So essentially, it's a free 2/3 flyer. And why do we have this in there? Well, we've got clone effects, of course, which allows us to get multiple effects out of this. We've got stuff that flickers it, and of course, the big bad flickerer of them all is
Deadeye Navigator is the next card. For 6 mana, it's a 5/5 spirit with soul bond. You can bond it to something when it enters, or when it's not so bonded, when something new enters, you can also bond it to this guy. And as long as this is bonded or paired, they state on the card, each of those tokens has, for 2 mana, you get to exile the creature and return it to the battlefield under your control. So this actually gives you infinite mana.
infinite mana. We don't usually do that. That's not fair.
No,
infinite
but
mana.
this deck has it.
Nicol Bolas is unfair. Tutors gets infinite mana, the whole shebang. What's also very cool, Deadeye Navigator, of course, if you soul bond it to anything, this is instant speed flickering. So if somebody uses an instant speed spell removal, we can just flicker either one of those two to protect them. Makes it really difficult to get rid of our creatures once Deadeye Navigator's on the battlefield, because instant speed removal, as long as you got 2 mana open, basically doesn't work. And of course, we've got so many creatures with awesome enter the battlefield ability, and be able to repeatedly get that enter the battlefield ability. This doesn't have to tap for it. Right? You can just, as long as you got 2 mana, you can keep on doing it, and that is of course super nasty. Let's move on to the ramp spells. Now the first one is Wayfarer's Bauble for 1 mana. It's an artifact, and we can pay 2 mana and tap it and sacrifice it to go look for a basic land card and then put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then we shuffle our library. Very simple, just for 3 mana, gives us a land extra that turn.
Yeah, it's the only 1 mana card, I think, in the deck. Yeah. So we do have one of those. So
we could have done that actually.
With the ideal turn progression, this would be the first card.
True.
The next one is the Signet, Dimir, Izzet, and of course the Rakdos Signet. And they state that for 2 mana you get an artifact, and then you can tap it for 1 mana, and then you add either blue and black, or blue and red, or red and black to your mana pool.
Exactly. Then we move on to Burnished Heart for 3 mana. We get a 2/2 Elk. Not a lot of Elk out there, but this one is very good because for 3 mana we can sacrifice it and search our library for 2 basic land cards and put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle our library. So it's like a Wayfarer's Bauble, a double one. But also what's really good about it is that it's actually a creature, which means we can block with it and then sacrifice it, so we didn't take any damage. And additionally, we can, of course, with all the recursion effects, we can get this creature back from the graveyard, back into our hand, and then play it again over and over again, getting lots of lands from our deck.
Strong. Then we have Commander's Sphere for 3 mana. It's an artifact, of course, again, and it states that you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity to your mana pool. But you can also sacrifice when you don't need the additional mana anymore to draw a card.
Yeah, pretty nice value. Then we have Darksteel Ingot for 3 mana. It's indestructible, so all those destroy artifacts stuff does not hit Darksteel Ingot. Additionally, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. That's pretty cool. Sometimes we may need some other mana.
Then we have Astral Cornucopia for 3 times X. It enters the battlefield with X counters on it, and you can tap it and choose a color, add 1 mana of that color to your mana pool for each charge counter on Astral Cornucopia. So for 3 mana you can get 1 mana per turn, and for 6 mana you can get 2. And if you manage to boost the charge counters on it, you can just gain a lot of mana.
Yeah, exactly. This is pretty cool because it scales with the game, which is super sweet. And additionally, also gives us a mana of any color, which sometimes we may need to do. That is it for the utility. Let's have a look at the lands. We divided the lands into 10 islands, 7 swamps, 7 mountains, and 14 non-basic lands. We start the non-basics with a number of guild gates. The first one is Dimir Guild Gate, which comes in tapped, but gives us a blue or a black mana. Then we got Izzet Guild Gate, which also comes in tapped, but gives us a blue or a red mana. And Rakdos Guild Gate, which also comes in tapped, but gives us a black or a red mana.
Then we have Crumbling Necropolis. It's a land, of course, we enter step, but it can give us either of the 3 colors we play, blue, black, or red.
Exactly. Then we have Grixis Panorama. It comes in untapped, so we can use it right away for a colorless mana. However, should we want to, we can pay a mana, tap it, and sacrifice it to look for either a island, a swamp, or a mountain, and put that on the battlefield tapped.
Then we have Rupture Spire and Transguild Promenade. They both do the same. They enter tapped, but when they enter, we have to sacrifice it or pay 1 colorless mana. So you actually have a tap land and tap a land to play it. But after that, you can add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be colorless mana. It can just be mana of any color, so just generic mana. Then we have Vivid Creek, Vivid Marsh, and Vivid Crag. So these ones are blue, black, and red respectively. They come in tap with 2 charge counters on them, and they give us the mana of their respective color, but 2 times it can give us mana of any color by tapping it and removing a charge counter from it.
Yes, then we have Temple of the False God. We can tap it to gain 2 colorless mana, and if we can only do this when we have 5 or more lands.
Yeah, very strong card. Love seeing this. Then we have Rose Passage, another favorite. Also comes in untapped and taps for a colorless mana, but this one for 4 mana, we can tap it and then target creature can't be blocked this turn. What if Nicol Bolas attacks and he can't be blocked? That would be a shame.
That would be really nasty.
Yeah, 3 hits, you're dead, commander damage.
And we can steal
hit.
something really big and make it unblockable.
Super nasty, yeah.
The next 2 lands are the last. It is Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds. They both do the same. You get to play it, then tap it and sacrifice it to search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped.
Exactly. Does what we need. Mana fixes us perfectly. Those are the lands. Let's have a look at the conclusion. In conclusion, this deck is a lot of fun. Man, do I love playing with this deck. Nicol Bolas really feels like such an evil genius. A lot of the times I don't even play the commander. I feel like I am Nicol Bolas, manipulating my opponents, telling me, don't attack me, I'm going to kill their stuff. I'm getting extra cards, getting extra mana, taking over their thing, attacking them, gaining life, making discard cards, destroying lands, exiling creatures. It's just so much cool stuff. No game is ever the same, but the games always end the same way, and that is Nicol Bolas kicking butt. It's just so much fun. It always feels kind of like a game of arch enemy where people have to band together to defeat you, even if you're not using any other incremental advantage stuff, because it just feels so unfair, but not in a way that stops people from playing the game. It's not a deck that says, okay, nobody can play lands, nobody can play creatures, nobody can play spells. No, it's not like that. Everybody's still playing stuff, but you are moving stuff around, and man, is that a lot of fun to play like that. And everybody else also has a lot of fun playing that kind of game.
Yeah, what I also really like about the deck is that it scales really nicely with the expensive decks, because the more expensive your opponent's decks are, the better your cards become, because you are going to steal their expensive stuff. So it doesn't really matter if you play against expensive decks.
No.
Which is really nice. I think about a really affordable deck. I don't know if you're going to say anything else.
No, go ahead.
The deck is going to be below $37. You can really buy this deck because we did the math on magiccards.info, which compares prices of all kinds of Magic the Gathering site which sells single cards. And we took all the medium prices, so it's really doable to get this deck and just play against your friends that play $1,000.
Yeah. Decks. Yeah, exactly. And if you think this deck was fun, or if we helped you save a buck, you say, you know what, let's throw the guys at Budget MTG Decks, I'd like to give them a buck for their hard work. Please go over to our Patreon page, have a look over there. We would love it if you would join us and become our patrons. Also, join us on Facebook and Twitter at Budget MTG Decks. Have discussions with us. Let us know what you think are maybe some good upgrade cards for this deck. Naturally, Planeswalker card, Nicol Bolas, the new one as well from Hour of Devastation would be super sweet. What other cards would you love to add in this deck which are not in your budget? Now, we're going to also ask you to subscribe to this channel for the most powerful decks and advice everyone can afford. And if you do subscribe, do hit that little bell button next to the subscribe button, because otherwise you won't get notified when a new video comes out. So if you want to get notified when new videos come out, hit that little bell button. That's it. Thanks for watching. I'm David.
And I'm Ruud.
And this was Budget MTG Decks.